Discover connection, awaken sacredness, become empowered. Join us for our show on Blog Talk Radio. Discover your spiritual gifts live.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Discover Your Spiritual Gifts Live. This is Jason.
And Vialet.
And our partner, Dave, is not with us today, and we wish him well. Hope all is wonderful in his world. And we are in an episode today to talk with Melissa Feick, who is an Akashic record reader, among many other things as well. She's going to be joining us today and telling us about her journey. Melissa is a mother of two wonderful children and a happy pet owner who lives her life consistently connected to spirit. She has been called an exceptional intuitive and has a perception beyond any other intuitives. Her spiritual expansion, healing, and coaching is deep and transformational, and many seek her out so they can move beyond their barriers of pain and suffering and live an inspired life of love in action. She does Akashic record readings and intuitive readings and has been teaching diverse workshops online and in person since 1998. That's a 20-year career. Well, thank you so much for making your way to our show, Melissa. We're so glad to have you today.
Thank you so much, Jason and Vialet. I appreciate being here.
Melissa, talk to us a little bit about your spiritual journey. Like, where did you start? Because back in 1998, I'm sure it was very different than it is today. So what guided you along this path and just take us along the journey with you?
Thank you. Vialet, yes, it was very different. We didn't even have internet, so you actually had to go to a bookstore to find a book. So I consider myself someone who started my journey when I came here. I always kind of knew things. I always felt like I saw beyond what other people saw. I just had this awareness. I wasn't someone who saw dead people or anything like that, but I always had this inner wisdom, and I think a lot of people do. And if you're one of those people, you can relate to that. And so you've always been on that journey. So I feel like I've always been on that journey. I became obsessed with astrology in high school, and then I started doing charts in college. And then I would read anything I could kind of find with any spiritual spin on it. And it just snowballed from there. And then when I started, after I got married, I actually started to study it even more seriously. So I studied many years before I actually taught. In 1998 was my very first class, and it was on astrology.
Very cool. Very cool. And so do you still do astrology stuff today, or has that evolved?
Do not. Yes. So astrology just was a point of where I started. Really, my journey now is really more toward ascension and ascension work. I've had this passion for ascension work since the, mid-late 90s when I first heard the word ascension, and I have pursued that. And to me, ascension is about living your life in a way that is in alignment with who you are. And that self-discovery is such a gift. And sometimes we trip up, and it's not always a pretty part of who we are, but it's always a part of us, including our ego and everything else. So ascension is moving beyond the awareness that we're only one thing, which is we're only human. We're many, many different things.
That's a lot of ground to cover. I'm glad there's someone like you that can help people through that.
Well, I'm not going to say I'm an expert, but it is something, it's a passion, and it is a desire to be of service.
Well, those are two huge components that definitely in spiritual work, whether you're a teacher or a practitioner or just, on the path yourself, that are really, they're part of the mix, right? If you don't have those things, it's always a bit more of a struggle if you don't have some passion and some fire that goes along with it. I love that you started out in astrology, because it sounds like that was something that was kind of accessible at the time, right? There was a lot of information available and a lot more about astrology than many of the other spiritual subjects. So how did you get into the Akashic Record aspect of what you do?
Well, actually, when I was teaching intuitive development, and I've taught that for many, many, many years, I used to teach a little bit of Akashic Records with that. But then I kind of fell away from that. And a few years ago, maybe about 4 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, time and space is doing weird things in my life, as I'm sure you understand. But anyway, that I had all of a sudden this huge download of information, and that download showed me everything about the Akashic Records on the quantum field and why that was the next step for me in my own evolution and who was attracted to that, right? Because I don't feel that one way is the only way or that you have something special and someone else doesn't. It's really about the what is it you're attracted to, what is a match for you. And honestly, I feel that download of information, I literally got 90% of what I wrote in my book in that moment. I did have to unpack some of it and to fine-tune it a little bit, but I started teaching it right after that to current students.
So someone that was... Go ahead, Violet.
For someone that doesn't understand, because I know Jason and I both do Akashic, and we get a lot of people that go, what is that? What are you talking about? How do you explain that to the person that's never heard of the Akashic Records, what you're looking at, what you're working in?
Well, basically, the Akashic Records is the foundational energy of everything we are and ever could be, or in anything we are and can be or would be. So the records hold all sorts of information about our lives, our universes, the experiences here. And depending on where you're working in the records, which I don't feel like one is worse than the other or anything like that, but when you're working in the records, a lot of people are accessing the records and not even knowing that they're in the records because they're receiving information about people and they're in the records. And those records to me are a way for us to discover what we're here for and where we can end up if we stay in alignment. Now, the Akashic Records for me in the quantum field is a little bit different than the lower planes of existence because these records are a living record. So it's not a book. It's a vibrational frequency that can be shifted and changed as you utilize it. So the Akashic Records on the quantum field, when you're clearing those records, when you're going in there to read them and work on them, they're rewriting and recreating your past, present, future, and inside of your own cellular energies as well. So your own body, mind, spirit.
So what would be a good example of that, Melissa? Do you have like a good example that you could share on how we can shift and change and what is happening at this time and what might shift and change by working in the records? Just a good example for people that are listening, trying to understand that.
Mm-hmm. Well, a good example is in relationships because we always have relationships. That is why we're here, to experience what it feels like to be with somebody else. So in any relationship in your life, you have certain things that are working nicely and some things that are not working as well. And instead of projecting onto that person, well, you make me feel angry, you go into the records and you ask the records what's in there around my karmic ties with this person in relation to anger. And the records will unfold and explain to you or show you, or you'll feel it, know it, see it, right, intuitively, how that is entangled. And that's why I like using the records on the quantum field, because I see the entanglement in there. So it's not just about a past life. It's about your current experience and how that is all working together for you to transcend your own karmic patterns. And that the karmic patterns are the larger patterns. So it's not, okay, I had this past life and I was a priest, and in that past life I was always cheating on the priesthood with the nuns. And it's not that story. It's a pattern. So that story would relate to a larger pattern of lack of integrity and lack of commitment. So here I am, a 45-year-old man, and I can never commit to anything. Now, that past life ties into that, but the larger picture is the lack of commitment and the fear around needing to do things the way that everybody else wants you to do it, and always, pushing up against authority. So that person has those karmic ties, and when you go into the Akashic Records on the quantum field, it shifts that energy and recreates it. There's also part of that is about personal responsibility. And that's a big piece that a lot of people have a little difficulty swallowing, because you still have to take responsibility for your experiences in your life, even if they are difficult experiences. And somebody will say to me, well, if I were abused as a child, how can I take responsibility? And I acknowledge 100%, and I understand this 100%, how difficult that would be to take responsibility for that. But the responsibility is, how are you dealing with it as a 40-year-old woman? Are you still holding on to that story and making that about your life, or are you trying to transcend it? If you're trying to transcend it, you're taking responsibility for your place in this time and space. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Definitely.
It does. Yep.
Definitely.
So when you say the Akashic Records in the quantum field, Melissa, can you explain the difference? I mean, clearly it's a different type of vibration, but it sounds like in your view that there's kind of a lower access to the Akashic Records, and then there's the place where you can actually make changes and make shifts. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes. So without getting into a lot of detail about it, because it really is in the book and it's pretty drawn out, there are planes of existence. And the planes of existence, there's a mental, emotional, and physical plane. I should say physical, emotional, mental. That's easier way to look at it. And those correspond to our physical, emotional, mental bodies. And those are more in alignment with the human experience and what we experience in our dimensions that are connected to our earthly experience here. So when you're working on the lower planes in the records, you're working directly in the books themselves and the energies associated with your past lives and how they all tie together. And that is absolutely a legitimate way to use the records. I think it's a beautiful way. I've met people who are really versed in that, like you two. I love that. And like I said, this was downloaded to me very quickly, like telepathically. So I would have never come up with this on my own, ever, because it seems kind of, it's a different way to look at it and nothing I've ever heard before. So what I was told is that if you're working in the lower records, you're only getting a small chunk of shifts available. And as you move up in vibration, when you go to the higher planes of existence, more the quantum field. So beyond the quantum field, I believe that there are other dimensions beyond the quantum field, by the way, or beyond the oneness space. But for us as humans, that's pretty much where we are able to access consistently, although a lot of people who astral travel or travel consciously can travel to other dimensions. Anyway, so they asked me to kind of just play with it and see what would happen. And I believe there are other people who probably had access similar to that information. I don't believe I was the only person. Maybe I compiled it differently because of my experience. But I believe that Spirit's always giving, lovingly giving to all people who are open. So the lower planes are hitting a certain way to clear things, and the quantum field is hitting a higher frequency. And like I said, it's a living frequency. So as you shift it, your life shifts, your past, present, future shifts. So now you don't even care about that story about when you were 5 and peed in the kindergarten class. You could care less about that. But your whole life, that has been something that has always plagued you. But if you're in the quantum field, clearing in the records, then that story shifts. So it's no longer part of your karmic experience here.
That's even going beyond looking at the root cause of things. That's looking at a higher level overall, taking care of all of it kind of at once. So you almost with that don't even need the backstory. That sounds accurate. Is that true?
Yes. So basically, when I work with people individually, I actually ask kind of some basic questions. I believe that we come here with karmic patterns that we're coming here to clear. So I do ask a little bit about their childhood, and intuitively I obviously get a lot of information, and the records give me information. And then it's not as much about the story. It's about the vibrational frequency and energy that they are holding on to that can be cleared in the records. So honestly, when I clear in the records, I'm clearing multidimensionally. So I clear in the records themselves, and the records clear themselves. I should say all of this clears itself. I just hold space for them to clear. I can't force it to clear. It's more of an allowing energy than a doing energy. And so it clears in the records, in the DNA, in the cellular memory, in the genetic line, so through the genetics, and in the physical body. So when you're clearing on all those levels, you don't really need this story. And look, Jason, you and I both know that everybody has stories. Everybody thinks their stories are the only stories that are like that. But in reality, every story starts to sound the same. And we hold on to our stories like they will help validate who we are. But as you raise your frequency and as you ascend, the story is just a story. And they've also proven that our memories are usually not accurate. So most of our stories aren't always accurate. And when you live beyond your story, you live in a place of higher states of consciousness, like oneness and love and grace. And when you live in that place, you're more connected multidimensionally. You can create your life differently. You can be different and feel different inside. And when you feel different inside, your external world shows up differently.
So as we're talking about creating, because I always talk about, Melissa, we're all magical creators of our own world. You know, in this dimension, we create our reality of whatever that looks like, and that comes from within, whatever we're holding within, whatever we're telling ourselves within, whatever we believe within, that's what we create outside of us, and we see that over and over again. So it sounds like when we can clear up our stories and we can clear up those energies and frequencies, then it allows us to really powerfully shift our reality to a whole different level than what we currently have.
Yes, and there is a movement. I believe that there's a movement happening for us to learn to be magical beings without the fear of our past, without the angst of what might happen. And that creation energy, when you shift your energy, then you're no longer living in the laws of this universe. You start to live in the laws beyond this universe. And that really shifts perspectives and shifts energy. The thing is that when you clear a lot of your karmic patterns, then you don't need a lot of the people in your life who caused or were the catalyst for some of those karmic patterns to show up in your life. So you change a lot, and your life changes. And you can still have those people in your life, but your relationship with them changes. And your jobs change. I've had a lot of people who have taken my classes who are amazed on how much has shifted in such a short period of time, or who have worked one-on-one with me. And they realized finally that, yeah, that's right. I can say those words, I'm magical, but now I know what it feels like to create my life and to be magical.
The way I'm kind of understanding this, and it's really opening things up, so thank you for explaining things so well, is that it's kind of almost as if the Akashic field and then the step into the quantum field, but that's sort of the first step in the ascension process. You kind of have to move through some of that to get to what sounds like is your ultimate goal, is that overall shifting of the energy and operating in a different place, really operating in a different vibration. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yes, operating in becoming the quantum field, I'd say, or becoming a different vibrational frequency and living in a material world at a frequency where you don't have to live by the physical laws anymore. I think that is where we're headed. And many masters and gurus have done that for ages. I just feel like it's more available to the masses because of the ascension process. And we are, there are people like Vialet and Jason who are the catalysts. They're the leaders who chose to come here to support people on their ascension path. And that isn't an easy feat for people like you, because you had to walk through your own trenches to get to that point to lead others, to help them discover that part of themselves. So that I always honor people who take the time and lovingly offer their services and teach others and support others on their path, because it's not easy doing that. So thank you both.
Well, back at you. It sounds like we're all kind of doing the same thing. And I love how you're really aiming a little farther, right? It's not a means to an end thing as much as it is, hey, once you clear this up, there's so much more on the other side of it. And I think you're really being down in the trenches and helping people day to day is one thing, but really working towards expanding the consciousness as a whole and getting more and more people in that mindset and in that experience, even if it's only momentary or occasionally, is still moving the right direction, right? So we've all had our time in struggle, and it still happens, but there's a point at which those of us that can see the future with clarity a good future with clarity is that it doesn't have to stay that way, right? There's a point at which we can actually move past that.
Yes, I agree. And like you said, when you're raising your consciousness, if enough of us hit a certain frequency, bang, a whole bunch of people just shift and time jump to the next frequency that we've already established. So that's what the people like you and I and Vialet, and we're here to help support that frequency raising up and opening up the consciousness. And we're also here to support those on whatever level they are to evolve who they are. Now, also, the quantum field, just so you know, I don't believe there's ever an end game. People say, okay, well, if I get enlightened, then that's my end game. But there are many levels to enlightenment. You know, some is inner peace, some is bliss, some is like being able to manifest instantly. All of that is enlightenment. So there's no end to that. There's all these possibilities. And then when you pass on, then there's more to discover. So there is never an end game. If the universe is consistently expanding, then there is no ending and no beginning. It's always an expansive experience.
It does tend to let us off the hook for things, in my view. So I support that wholeheartedly. So let's take a quick break here from our interview with Melissa and Jason and Vialet, and we'll listen to some information about Discover Your Spiritual Gifts Center, and we'll be back with everybody shortly.
Hi, I'm Violet Rain, Master and Teacher of Angelic Reiki at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. If you love angels, if you resonate with angels, or you're just interested in learning more about angels, most people really want to consider Angelic Reiki. But you know, Angelic Reiki is more than just working with the angels and learning a new healing modality. It's about ascension. And when you step into Angelic Reiki, you're not only working with angels, but you're working with ascended masters and galactic healers. The angelic kingdom of light, which includes all of those, steps in and helps you be able to hold more light. And what I have found along this journey is it expands your ability to be able to hold light, which raises your frequency, which accelerates your ascension process. So the individuals that step onto Angelic Reiki are really ready to step onto their spiritual path, learn more about angels, ascended masters, galactic healers, learn possibly a new healing modality that they'll use in their life, but also they're ready for those major shifts in their lives to really be on their spiritual path and take their journey to the next level. If you've been thinking about Angelic Reiki or you'd like to find out more about this beautiful modality, please don't hesitate to contact me, Vialet, at discoveryourspiritualgifts.com, or check out our website under classes. You will find Angelic Reiki there with lots of information about this program and the benefits of taking this course. We hope to see you in class really soon, and I hope to see you at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.
And we're back with Discover Your Spiritual Gifts Live, and we are here with Melissa Feick. Melissa, and we're having an amazing discussion about not just the Akashic Records and the quantum field, but also about ascension. And Melissa, you've been teaching people how to do this for a long time. So how has energy changed from the late 90s when you started, and what shift have you seen in the last couple of decades that really stands out to you?
Well, the shift that I've seen is that people are more open-minded and more available to their own inner process. And they're not just looking for somebody to fix things. They're actually willing to do the work, because it takes a little work to do the spiritual side of spirituality, because there's an involvement of self within. And with the internet, there's so much available. And what I've also noticed is that people get confused as well. They don't know where to go. They get what I call spiritual ADD. So they're all over the place, and they've tried all these different things and all these different modalities and jumping around, and they don't have focus. And that can sometimes cause more problems for people than having a focus and learning about that. So when I was first started with my first teachers, which there were 2 teachers that I worked with, and they were hard to find. I had to search to find them. And when they taught me as much as they knew. So I was with them for like 4-5 years. And then I started branching out with other teachers and reading more books. And what I found is that information is so much more available, but the frequency is higher and higher, and everybody's consciousness is more connected. So we have this collective consciousness, right? So the collective consciousness around spirituality back in the 90s and early 2000s was a whole different experience than it is now, because there are more people who are open-minded, who are connecting spiritually, who are raising their own consciousness, more loving and kindness in the world. I just see everything shifting. And I also see our political climates and other parts of our experience here bucking against and resisting the evolutionary process that we're going through. And they're trying to hold on to the old energy. And that's cool, because we have to have some resistance to catapult us forward. So think of it like a slingshot. Those people who are resistant to the energy movement are only helping us catapult forward quicker. So instead of seeing that as a negative, see that as a beautiful dance to help us move to higher frequencies quicker.
You know, I love the spiritual AH, you know, all that, because we call it the shiny, you know, when the new person is opening up to their spiritual journey, it's all the shinies. Oh, I want to try that, and I want to try that, and I'm going to take that, and I'm going to take that. And I know in our center, you know, when I see people doing that, I always take the time to say, hey, can we chat? And they're like, yeah, what's up? And I'm like, we need to slow you down, because you can't digest all of this that you're going after, and really figure out what are you trying to accomplish and what can you accomplish realistically in the physical, right? Because I'll have people come in and they're taking like 5 different modalities all at the same time, and it's like, woof. You know, let's figure out what you really are interested in and passionate about, and let's do that. Let's do it in a way that we can physically kind of digest and take all this information in and learn it and be able to use it, because they're kind of everywhere. They're like, oh, I want to try this, and I love this book, and I'm going to do this. And I know when I started my spirituality, kind of like you, we had to go to the bookstore to pick up a book. There was no internet. It was really hard to find information back then, and teachers. And now there's just so much available for people to kind of dive into and find their way through. So it's a whole lot more out there today. And I think it is because more and more people are waking up, more open and interested and curious, and what is that? What does that mean? And what does that look like? And how does that work? And I love that. I love that passion and curiosity and, you know, really wanting to jump in. But sometimes we have to go, okay, what can I really learn, digest, bring in, and do at the time? So I love how you put that into perspective, because we definitely see that all the time.
Yes, beautifully said. Absolutely beautifully said. One of the things I teach people is, instead of trying to search for something, start allowing the universe to show up for you. So say, okay, universe, God, source, whatever word you want to say for the, oneness energy, show me what's in alignment. And just allow the universe to show up for you and see what shows up. If it's Reiki, it's Reiki. If it's, learning to communicate with animals, that's what it is for the moment. And instead of trying to chase it, and that's where I find a lot of people are chasing their enlightenment. And they're running around in circles chasing enlightenment, thinking that if they get this one thing, it will be the thing. Instead, they should be going, what can I do to shift who I am inside so that my world changes and that I feel more in alignment with who I am, and then I can be of service as well. That's my opinion anyway.
I love that. Asking within, or asking our source, or whatever we believe, show me what's next for me, or show me what I'm not actually seeing. Guide me on the path. Because when they do, it's so much more powerful. Anytime we want to create, manifest stuff, we can put out in the universe what we want. But I feel like the most powerful creations are the ones where you say how you want to feel or what your life would look like without direction on how it comes in or how it's created or what the final outcome is, because the universe has such a better perspective than we do. And so
Absolutely.
When we allow that to flow, it comes in so much better, bigger than what we could ever imagine in our dreams. It falls better in place because we are limited by our own personal experiences, and the universe is so much bigger than that.
Yeah, most things we ask for is really about our ego anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So the universe, and we limit ourselves because so many people live in lack because they believe that the physical universe is lacking. And I've been shown over and over and over again that the physical universe doesn't lack anything. We're not running out of resources, because if we all believe that there'll be more resources, those resources will show up. But it's our belief that there are limited resources. That's why we experience limited resources in every aspect of our world. And
it's
again,
that program of scarcity. Yeah. Sorry.
Yes, I agree with you, Jason.
We're programmed for scarcity, and we're shown this and that through the media and through the generational viewpoints that have been adopted, because that's what we've been told. And now people are starting to look at things from a different perspective, like what you're presenting, and recognizing that if we ask for the things and don't stress about it, the chances are pretty good that what we need to show up. And we're going to go through some spots. We're doing a lot of that right now on our planet, but it's all part of the greater movement to get us to the next place. Because if we don't participate, if we don't take part, and we just sit on the sidelines and let someone else tell us how it's going to be done, then change isn't going to happen. But if we can shift our mindset and operate from a higher place, that eventually everybody will be in that place. Because the ones that can come along, it's very much like in our lives, right? When we ascend, the ones that can come along with us, or the people that show up after we've changed our vibration, are much more in alignment. So, we're going to leave some folks behind because they choose to be elsewhere. But if we all move forward together, the future is a much brighter place.
Hallelujah.
I love that. Melissa, talk to us a little bit about Ascension, because you've talked about that. For the person that doesn't understand what Ascension is, are there layers? Are there levels? Is it, how can we put it in a perspective that's simple for those out there that are really new on their path, going, what is that word? What does that mean? How would you explain that to them?
So Ascension is a word that is easy to use because it's fairly common in the spiritual communities. Really, it has to do with raising your frequency, being clear on where you want to head in your life, meaning not ego, but in vibrationally, and allowing yourself to evolve to different levels and letting go of the past energies, and whether that's, past lives or past difficulties, and opening up to the higher frequencies. You cannot drag your anger into a higher frequency. It's impossible. So as you raise your vibration, and what I mean by vibration is energy, and everything is energy. Thoughts are energy, feelings are energy, we are energy. Our bodies only know how to live in an energetic universe. Even though they're a physical body and you think it needs to live in a physical form, it has to live in an energetic environment, because energy is how we create. And when you start to see beyond the illusion of the physical laws, let's say, that we're limited by physical laws, you start to see things, feel things, and understand things differently and raise your frequency, which is ascension. It's a process, and I believe that the ascension is happening whether we know about it or not. The ascension is happening whether we want it to or not. It's already here. We've always been on this path. The thing is that when we were at a denser frequency, if you've studied some Blavatsky, you know that when we were in a denser frequency, it's a slower energy. So time and space is like moving through quicksand. Now we're starting to higher the frequency, and it's not just us. Everything in this universe is raising its frequency, and as we move through that frequency, it's just happening. There's nothing that we need to do to create the ascension process, but we are either flowing with the process and allowing our frequency to raise, or we're resisting the process and we are holding ourselves back. And some people are here right now to resist the ascension process. So they are not doing that wrong. They are not living life wrong. They are not, we're not better than them because we are aware of the frequency changes. We have to honor that we're all here together to experience it in the way that we are supposed to. It's unique to us. And, we have to be very conscious of the spiritual ego that can come through when we start on our spiritual path, because we can say, oh, well, I'm at a higher frequency, I know more, and so I'm better than that person. But really, they're in their own evolutionary process as well, and you have to honor them. And I've also seen where people have been way behind, let's say, like if we were looking at it linearly, way behind on their spiritual process, and then they jump ahead of a bunch of people. So you never know how things are supposed to unfold for each individual experience and person.
Wow,
it's amazing
cool.
How much. Go ahead, Dee.
That's pretty cool. I mean, just as you're talking, I'm getting the hit. That's why things are moving so fast, right? Because I can say 30 years ago, if I created something or I put it out there, it took time to receive it, and things moved a little slower. And I think all of us have said at some point or another, the time seemed to be like going really, really fast. Like everything seems to be moving faster and faster and faster. And so the ascension, with everybody going through that, is also increasing how things are moving a lot faster than what they used to move, 20, 30 years ago. It just seems like it's accelerated everything.
It's amazing how much of our world is influenced by our egos, that we're letting the co-pilot fly the ship. Right?
Yes.
I often ask people, okay, imagine yourself in the vehicle of your choice, and you and your ego are cruising around, flying, driving, whatever. Which of you is in the driver's seat? right? which of you is running the show? Because if your ego's running the show, it might be time to switch up who's at the actual wheel there. And so much of what we experience is ego driven, as you touched on earlier, and a lot of what's happening and being revealed to us in the negativity, or what we perceive as negativity in our world, is just showing us the other side, right? There's always going to be extremes. There's always going to be rhythm and vibration, and all those things exist because that's how the universe operates. So there's always going to be as much of one thing as there is of another until we move into a different plane, and we're not quite sure what that understanding looks like from here. We're sort of moving in faith, but the people that we recognize have made those kind of shifts, and if we've made them for ourselves, we're in a place where we really appreciate and understand operating here is way easier, and it's more fun, and it's actually pretty exciting. So if there's people that wonder, what's the benefit? Well, everything just kind of gets easier. It makes more sense. There's less crappy stuff happening to you. That's to me the baseline benefits of staying on your spiritual path and looking for that higher vibration, or the ascension, or working in the quantum field, however you want to refer to it. A lot of it has to do with us letting go of the third dimensional stuff. We're so attached to it, we kind of can't help it because that's where our body is. Right? So it's all about expanding the perception, and we can only see so much from where we're sitting. You have to be sitting somewhere else to see some of the other stuff. So it's okay to be moving. It's also okay to be in the same spot all the time. There's no rhyme or reason to it in some people's heads. They want what they want more, but oftentimes right where you're at is just fine. In fact, I find that it's actually more often than not that where you're at is just fine.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that a lot of people want to disengage from the physical world and from their physical bodies because it's more appropriate for spiritual people to be very spiritual. And what we're here for is to experience. And I've been meditating, contemplating this for the last couple months, because I kept on asking, exactly why are we here? Exactly why? Show me exactly what it is. And I'm getting pieces maybe a little bit, but we're here to experience, and that's it. And we're choosing how we want to experience this world. So some people choose to experience it living in their parents' basement at 60 years old, and other people choose to experience it by meditating. And neither one is wrong or right, but as we're raising our frequency, the energy is going to shift that we are here to experience a very physical world as multidimensional people. And that's pretty brilliant, that if we got to come here, we have the availability to come here at this time and experience the physical world and other dimensions all at once, and to see beyond the physical laws and higher our frequency. And like Violet said about the energy of consciousness and how time is different, we get to experience that. And that's kind of a gift, because not everybody is here to do that. So enjoy the process. And sometimes it's not always as pleasant, but the more you move past and transcend your old patterns, the easier it gets.
I love
100%
that.
agree. Yep. Totally agree.
I love that. Melissa, share with us a little bit, because you're not in Denver. Where do you live at?
I live in Maryland, outside of Annapolis, which is the capital of Maryland.
Awesome. Well, someday we hope you make it to Denver. We'd love to meet you in person. But tell the folks on the call today how they can find you, what you offer, and what you have out there. Because I know you offer some online education and lots of different things. Talk to us a little bit about some of the things that you offer to folks.
Well, thank you so much. I have my website, which is Melissa, Feick, Feick.com. So it's easy, Melissa, Feick.com. And I have a lot of different things on there. I do give people a free meditation, my Divine Love meditation. And I kind of want to talk about that just a hair, because I keep on getting people who are contacting me, telling me that this meditation is changing their life. And it's all about giving and receiving. So I got a download from Spirit to create this meditation, because so many spiritual people live in the world of giving. So we think we're supposed to give. But there's a flow in the universe, and that flow is giving and receiving. So the leaves start to change colors. The leaves fall off the ground. They go into the ground. They become moist and soil, and then that feeds the trees. It's a giving and receiving. And we spiritual people think that we're supposed to only be of service and only give, or we tend to give because that's just innately in us. We can't help but help. And they said, we want people to start to learn and to discover what it means to flow in the energy of giving and receiving. We want it to do it through divine love, which is the ultimate source energy. So this divine love meditation is all about giving and receiving and the flow of the universe. So if anybody wants to go to my website, it's on the first page and it'll say Divine Love Meditation. You can do that. It will sign you up for my email, but you absolutely can unsubscribe. I'm not holding anybody hostage by any means. But I feel that this is appropriate and important for so many people. And Spirit keeps on telling me to encourage people to use this meditation. And people, I have a lot of people I don't know from all over the world who are getting back to me and saying, thank you so much. I just had somebody recently tell me that he's had some psychological issues and he finally feels like this is really making a difference in his life. And that to me was just a beautiful thing. And I know Spirit is bringing these to the right people. And that aside, quickly I'll tell you what else I do. I have an Ascension class, so I do Ascension work. I have an Akashic Records certification, level 1 and level 2, which level 2 is more about my coaching and healing work, which is a deeper connection. And I also do readings. And this is all online because I have clients from all over the world, so everything is online. I like to keep my classes smaller so that I have an intimate connection. Like I have an intuitive development class and some other meditations online that I don't directly connect to people with, but then my Akashic Records level 1 and level 2 and my Ascension class are actually over the internet on Zoom. So you talk to me in person. And for me, life is really about whatever unfolds. And, if you feel connected, great. But definitely follow your heart and follow your own calling. Nobody has all the answers. Everybody is just doing the best they can. And for me, it's all about love and service.
I love that. Well, Melissa, thank you so much for being part of our show today. I really do appreciate it. Thanks for scheduling. And by all means, if you're ever in Denver, we would love to be able to meet you in person. And thanks for offering that meditation. I know our community will really love that as well.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, both Jason and Violet. I so appreciate your time, and this experience, and I just feel a beautiful flow. And by the way, I will be in Denver at one point, and I will definitely look you up. So you can count on that.
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much, and we look forward to it. For our listeners out there listening, please stay tuned. We'll have some of our practitioners talking about the services and classes that they offer at our center. Thanks for listening today, and we hope to see you on our next show.
Hi, I'm Nikki Milton. I am the Center Manager and Marketing Manager here at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. I'm here 2 days a week on Mondays and Fridays, marketing this beautiful center and making sure that the center is up to standard for all you lovely guests who will hopefully come and visit us soon. I also own a content marketing agency, so I'm a teacher here in the space because I have a real passion for helping the spiritual business owners in this community learn how to brand and market their businesses. So I run a business class series every year on branding and marketing and social media classes, as well as a full strategy workshop towards the end of the year to help you get your business in line for the upcoming year. And that is what I do here at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.
This is Janice Dow, and I want to help you live a life of ease, joy, and grace. I help people who want more happiness, may be feeling stuck or burdened, may want more energy, or want to take control of the mental chatter in their mind. Our body-mind is very powerful, and if we understand how it works, we can bring about positive change in our lives. Change is constant, and you may be swept up and feel powerless, but I can show you a different way of being. You can direct the change via intention, where you become empowered through evolution and transformation. You can learn to be powerful and energetic. We truly live in an age where self-directed transformation and evolution is possible. In 2013, I lost my job. And when working with a career coach, I was told that I was unconsciously giving my daughter all of my vital energy. And once I understood the need for boundaries, I began learning about subtle energy as I restructured my approach to my relationship with my daughter and moving forward in my energy work. And luckily, I'm able to apply what I have learned to self-care. I can do the same for you. My unique approach combines brain and body-mind sciences with the unseen world of subtle energy. These modalities are the secret sauce that help you to move with more grace and ease. Each session is tailored to your needs. You can be happier today. You can be in the flow of the universe. You can quiet the chatter in your mind. You can do it, and we'll have fun. I'm at Discover Your Spiritual Gift Center on Tuesdays.
Hi, my name is Julie Kay. When I was in high school in Soviet Union, I had an uncle who was a scientist who started introducing me to the world of unexplained. We looked at the past lives hardly discussed in the Soviet Union at that time, other galaxies, stars, planets, UFOs. That was all forbidden in my country by the government and did not show up in the media. When I was 16, one day I was sitting with my grandma outside of our home looking at the stars and thought how cool it will be to have this knowledge. Well, I was very interested in all these things. I went to college and kept silent on this subject and got a business degree. I read the Bhagavad Gita and the Mahabharata, which were gifts from my uncle. I had no one talk about this after my uncle passed, where the past lives and stories was fantasies. They didn't make any sense to me, how you can die and be reborn again. I was always interested in the UFOs and ended up seeing them on a plane flight in 1986. That seemed to answer my question about the universe, what is out there. I kept reading many books. I ended up with the Dolores Cannon books. And so on a YouTube interview with her work seemed to make a lot of sense with the people, the planet and the universes and the parallel dimensions and parallel realities. She came up with the information that connected clients who didn't know each other. She put the puzzle together. I had a session and I was wondering if I can have a session with someone. I had a session with one of her students and I was so clear I found out that I could be trained in this, so I pursued hypnotherapy and then becoming a past life practitioner. So I had a second session that provided a lot of answers to me. I now provide this type of the session to client at Discover Your Spiritual Gift based on the Dolores Cannon regression system. It starts with the client providing a list of questions that will be answered during the hypnosis session. This work gives me access to a person's subconsciousness. The subconsciousness has answered to any questions the person has consciously about their life. The subconsciousness can show the right answers and fix any problems the person has in their life. Health, relationships, changes that are desired. They can even connect to loved ones who passed. I'm available at Discover Your Spiritual Gift on Mondays. You can reach me at 303-523-8412. Thank you and have a good day.
Discover connection, awaken sacredness, become empowered. Join us for our show on Blog Talk Radio.